Okay, the Lincoln Budget Committee will now come to order. You all know Mike's not feeling well. He called me this afternoon, just about could speak. He's been resting and strongly suggested that he rest and not worry about zooming in. So we wish him a speedy recovery and hopefully he'll be back Tuesday. I want to thank all the Budget Committee members that are coming out tonight. Appreciate it. The thing I have to say before we begin is I'd like to have it that you go through the questions, go through the chair. I find that works out well. I run meetings in 4 different states in my career, and that's the way to do it. That way there's no talking in between, and we don't miss any good ideas. So if you don't mind, that's kind of an idea that I use very successfully. So we'll practice that tonight.
No free for all, huh?
Please, Paul.
Oh, free for all?
No, that's why my friend's with me. Danny. Well, anybody have any, minutes will be ready next Tuesday. Talk to the secretary. They already been at the next meeting to cover that. And everybody's here. I thank the people that are here from department heads. Nate is here, and Kristen's here. Kristen, we're gonna turn it over to you with the town clerk.
All right.
Page 2, everybody.
So, there have been some increases, with the hours. I increased the hours for a couple different reasons. One is we are officially open more hours, with Christine here. She's here on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So any days that she's not out, I'm now covering for her as well. Plus we have 4 elections next year. So there's that increase. And then, 4%, the COLA, that is, I think it's 4%. So not with that. So that is that increase. And then the deputy town clerk wages, Christine is now in that position. So we have adjusted that to reflect her salary and the number of hours she'll be working going forward. Dues are pretty stagnant. They've gone up a little bit, nothing unexpected. There is one pretty decent increase. I would like to become a certified town clerk. That's something that I was interested in doing last year. But it wasn't, it didn't get funded. And I think it's a good idea if you're gonna have a town clerk, that option, be available. And I love any kind of continuing education that I can get. Always new things to learn. So that's something I would absolutely love to do. And then let's see, PO box rents, obviously that went up. There are some things that we are not doing anymore. My boss. Our old company, BMSI, they were doing the software for us, and they're no longer doing that. We are using Interware, ClerkWorks for all of our motor vehicle processing, so that it is greatly reduced. And then credit card yearly maintenance has gone down to $60, which is great. Envelopes, dog tags, all of that kind of stuff pretty much stays the same. The addition with the publications, the motor vehicle blue book, that was something that was included in the previous software. It is now purchased with the software, but separately. So it's a different line item within that, but and then the increase of motor vehicles. We're seeing a pretty steady increase, especially with the amount of new vehicles and residences in the area. So that is that.
I'd like to commend you on your continuing education goals and want to be certified. I think that's great. I remember you talking about it before.
Yeah.
I think that's a great road for you to be on. And I appreciate your interest.
It's actually a 1-week course. It's a continuing course. So it's actually 3 years. And so every year you go for 1 week, and it's a week-long intensive training. And every year you kind of graduate to the next level, and at the end of 2 years, when you get certified as town clerk. And then from there on, You know, they do recertification and joint certification for other things. There's, you know, a plethora of continuing education. For
Is that through the state of New Hampshire or private?
It's through,
Held at
it's,
private,
yeah, it's held at Primac, but,
but it's through the town clerk association.
Yeah. and so there's the New England Town Clerks Association and the New Hampshire Town Clerks Association, and both of them work separately as well as conjunction together to certify.
Tim,
So it's a 3-year program, you said?
It
Is
is.
this 1,100 per year, or is this 1,100 for the 3 years?
I'm pretty sure it's 1,100 per,
So 3,300 total.
I'm pretty sure.
Dennis,
Thank you.
thank you.
The motor vehicle processing, I for one that come in with many vehicles to register every year. The processing is much faster. Is that because of this upgrade?
Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
Works out
it's-
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the major complaints we had, was that motor vehicles weren't open 5 days a week and.
Right.
For those of you that know now, we are open 5 days a week, do motor vehicle registrations and, you know, it's really been
Mhm.
working out well. So that's why you're gonna see kind of those changes in the wages and whatnot, but was I think an ask from the community and
Yeah.
figured it out.
Mhm. Yeah.
Further questions?
Congratulations.
Very good. Elections? No, page, number 3, elections.
Thank you.
Johnson.
On that, elections.
Yeah.
Pretty standard, we actually, so just to kind of give you an update, we have 4 elections this year. We have the primary in January. We have the town elections in March, we have the state primary in September, and then the presidential general election in November. We are down to officially from previous 1 ballot clerk, Randy, who will be on vacation, so I put a kind of word out there. And we have had, a number of volunteers, which is great, so yay for that, but, with that increase last year, it'll bring us to $200 for each ballot clerk per election. So with 4 elections next year, that'll bring it to 1,600. Advertising and printing, advertising is pretty much the same as it is with 1 election or with 4 elections, because really the only advertising we're doing is town meeting. So that stays the same. Certified computers, like the maintenance stays the same. Tabulators have increased to $700, so it's now $350 a piece. These are machines that have not been made since the mid-80s. So the parts are very few and far between. The state is, I'm not sure if they've finally chosen it. I think they're down to 2 or 3 different kinds of tabulators that they're going to be approving through the state, but these companies have to then meet this criteria specifically for the state. So just heads up, that's probably going to be something later down the road, not next year, but maybe the year after, but for right now, that maintenance is stayed the same. Miscellaneous supplies, pretty much the same. Meals, $250. I'm gonna put something out there. Hopefully, I sent some messages out a couple days ago. Heard some things back from a few different eateries in the area. Try and maybe haggle our way down to less than $500 a day for food. Would be cool. So going to stick with that number and make it work. Follow. Figure it out.
Questions?
Thank you,
Very
Krista.
good, thanks.
Yeah, awesome.
We go on to tax collector 2A.
I'm gonna present that one.
Okay, Corinne, you're on.
All right, so as we kind of briefly touched upon, we have now settled in with a permanent tax collector. If you remember, last year, we were using current staff to kind of get us through a point in time. And once Sandy Dobelak retired, we didn't have a tax collector for a while. We had an interim tax collector who was a current employee of the town, kind of doing both jobs. We now have Christine, who's on board, who, works 22 hours a week, on the tax side of things, and then she works 8 hours a week doing the motor vehicles, so we can be open 5 days a week for motor vehicles. So, you'll see that is her proposed, rate for 2024. You'll see that the deputy tax collector, we brought that down now that we have a full-time position and a solid person who's gonna be here pretty much 4 days a week. We didn't find a necessity to have a full-time or a formalized part-time deputy tax collector. We are still gonna use Lisa, who was working as our interim, but we're really only gonna need her during the busy weeks, the month of July and pretty much the month of December. So we're only gonna need her as backup. So we reduced the deputy tax collector to account for 16 hours for 8 weeks, just for a little supplement to help get this tax bill. Moving down, the dues, travels and conferences, similar to, Christine would also like to go through the, New Hampshire tax certification program. So we added $1,000 for her to be able to attend those, certifications and seminars. Well, we didn't add $1,000, we brought it up from $325. Everything else remained the same. Looking into contracted services, you are going to see, that previously, we are planning to switch our tax collection software from BMSI, which is the software we currently use. It's an antiquated software. It doesn't speak to our assessing program, and it also doesn't speak to our accounting program. So, fortunately, we have new staff who is willing to learn new programs, and we can update ourselves. So we went through a sort of workshop kind of training program with Avatar, and we feel like Avatar is the best fit. It's what a lot of municipalities are using now. It has a shell program, Avatar Assessing, so the collect program and the assessing program will speak to each other. The changes will be made in real time. It's just a much more advanced program that's gonna help on both the assessing side of things and the tax collect side of things. We were able to purchase the software, out of the 2023 budget. So the $2,100 is, for us to be able to go to a paperless billing service with Avatar. So now when you get your tax bill, you can go online and you can sign up and you'll be able to get your tax bill electronically in the mail, electronically in your email, in addition to getting a hard copy of it in the mail. You'll also be able to go on and print out any previous history, any previous tax bill. Will archive all your history on your property on that. So it's a much more user-friendly for the consumer to be able to go on, print out an old tax bill if they can't find it, rather than calling town hall and asking us to print out one or put it in the mail or whatnot. It's a much more user-friendly program.
I like the fact you're having a hard copy.
We have to legally by law.
Yeah, I mean, you have
Yeah.
to, but I think.
Right. But we get a lot of requests for people can you
Yep.
send it to us electronically? Can you, they're second homeowners or they live out of the state or out of the country or whatnot. So being able to sign up to get electronic billing, we think is, a benefit to the community as a whole. So we did add that additional $2,100 for the 24 to be able to add that service, in the program. So, that also takes away our computer support contract with Municipal Resources. We will now be using Avatar as our support because they're the actual company that we are contracting with, and that is built into the annual fee that we paid out of the 23 budget. Going down, everything else remained flat in the contracted services line. We did slightly reduce the title and mortgage search sheet. We're realizing that we're not having to do as many title searches each year. Taxpayers are paying their bills on time, and so the leaning and deeding process has reduced, so we don't need quite as much funds in order to do those title searches.
That's
So collections are great. We enjoy that. We appreciate it. And then materials and supplies, envelopes and toner, we did bump that up slightly, just based on the expenditures. We did bump up the envelope slightly. But overall, the budget went down by roughly 6%.
Questions for Corinne?
Yes. Just
just in a general sense, do we know the ratio between the amount of taxes paid by actual residents versus the amount of taxes paid by folks that have homes here but don't live here?
We didn't do it for 24, but we did it for town meeting in 23. We tried to break down the local residents versus the second homeowners versus the commercial properties. And I believe that the local residents were paying roughly 7%, if I'm correct, of the overall collections.
It was definitely less than 10.
So then it's fair to make the assumption that 90% of the taxpayers are not putting children into the school system or voting. Or voting.
Correct.
Well, if you own a business, that you could put children in school.
If you own, well, no, if you
Business
just,
live in town.
It didn't take into account renters either.
it didn't take into account renters, no.
Right.
But I mean, just because you own a business doesn't mean,
Please, ask the questions, one at a time, raise your hand up. Go ahead.
yeah, but just because you own a business in town doesn't mean you have to, you can put a kid in the school. You would have to pay a tuition if you were out of, a non-resident.
I think just the point that I wanted to bring out.
Okay.
Because we always talk about taxes and how it affects people. I think, at least for myself, I need to recognize that the supermajority of the tax revenue which supports the tax rate comes from sources, basically where folks are not full-time residents in town.
That is accurate.
Questions? Do you have questions? Any other questions? Okay. Too much. I want you to shut it.
Okay.
Thank you. Nate?
All right. Public works.
13. Welcome, Nate.
So just, we'll go through and I'll pretty much just focus on changes.
Right.
Unless you question or anything else.
Sounds good.
So wages, obviously reflects, the cost of living increase. And I'm also budgeting for a position that I have not filled so far. So. There is a decrease that, the select board decided to, take down the, part-time from, the 25 to 20.
The overtime.
The overtime, I mean,
Oh.
And a lot of that wasn't spent was because I don't have that extra person, I'm actually filling in for that, so all of the overtime, I'm working with the same hours my guys are working. That's a lot of that. And then, going down through, I kept everything pretty much flat from last year. I did go up an extra $500 for sweeping, due to the contract that I signed. Besides that, I don't believe I didn't increase anything else within the public works. Same as last year.
Al? Al, please go through the chair first.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah, okay. Why is telephone? You may not know. It's so much, $4,000.
Telephone also covers, all of my employees have the cell phone
Oh, okay, all right. Includes cell phone.
and internet at the show.
Yep.
Fuels on, right?
I feel like it's the same as last year. You may have been just asking yourself, but.
I was.
Just wanna say thank you. I think the budget here is the town's best bang for the buck.
Yeah.
Right here, and I appreciate you.
Looks great. It's great.
How you doing? Can you talk about it?
Paul, please raise your hand, Paul,
Do you see everybody raising their hand, Herb?
I see people raising their hand.
Come on, Herb.
What did I make that little talk in the beginning for?
I don't know, it's for everybody, Herb.
It was for everybody.
All right. Play your game, Herb.
I'm not playing a game, Paul. It's called order in a meeting. It's been very successful. Okay? Brett. Thanks, man. You're welcome.
And Nate's been a man down for, you know, pretty much the whole year. And as Nate said, he's coming in and doing the plowing and doing the water and. I agree with Tammy that get a lot of bang for our buck when it comes out of public works department.
Right.
I expect, before I get this, I expected it to be high. And I'm amazed at the job. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll point out too that a lot of stuff Nate does in-house just to save the town money. He doesn't have to. He does it because he cares, and we appreciate it.
Try to do as much as we can
Yeah.
with what I've got.
Now,
How do we do with the bid? Pick up the dump truck.
We did great.
We did really well.
We got $28,000 for it. We put the low, the starting bid, we advertised at 15, we got 28.
It surprised me. I mean,
Me too.
It was in pretty rough.
We're not complaining.
what, Nate, you think?
Whichever budget you wanna go to next.
We will do water.
Go to what?
Yep, 17.
Okay, so water again, and the cost of living increase for wages. I didn't change anything else until we get down to contracted services. This budget reflects the absence of the storage tank cleaning, which I did last year, and I only have to do every 5 years. So that's saving us like $12,470. Did have, I struggled, this past year, as you all well know. I have on record that we got about 52 plus inches of rain last year. And that reflects directly what I overspent in chemicals. Because we struggled really hard to make good drinking water out of that river.
Understandably.
God bless you.
It was definitely a struggle. So, and that being said, I increased it to 65 from 55. And I spent 72, but I'm going into the season with more of a surplus than I normally would. So I'm sitting on $9,500 worth of coagulant that I just opened, which is normally a 6-month supply. And I also have 5 pallets of sodium bicarbonate, and I have 1,500 gallons of sodium hypochlorite. So I'm going into the season, if we don't get over 4 feet of rain,
Holy smokes.
I'm trying to not
Yeah.
go skyrocket here, and and we can take a look at this again next year. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But I'm also struggling with, especially with sodium bicarbonate, because in the past I've been able to purchase an entire truckload, which is 16 pallets. It's my most expensive chemical, and I don't have the storage room for all 16 pallets. The supplier used to store 8 for me and deliver 8. they have no room to store the 8, so now I have to buy 8 at a time. And it's costing, unfortunately. If I had a dry place that I could store the extra 8. I'd get better,
Why don't you run? Works with that,
because
there's room up there to put one.
I don't have the ability to go all the way into a storage container with the backhoe with forks. And I can't take my fork truck out of the water plant, put it on the ground and put it in storage container.
So doesn't have something you can borrow, and you had to do that, just to bring, you know what I mean?
We had
Transfer.
talked about something like that when I took over for Billy, about putting Connex and maybe
Yeah.
trying to put it by the building and getting it up off the ground so that we could actually maybe get the fork truck in and out of it. I'll look into that and see if I can.
Oh, yeah. But the amount of times you have to go
Yeah.
into it, you bring from there to the building,
Right,
so you bring a
and
pallet.
I do have
to
a
the
pallet
building.
jack and we use it all the time for different things, but, you know, like I said, there's 50 bags on it.
That saves the money.
And it needs to be dry because it's sodium bicarbonate powder and the bags are paper. They do have like a plastic lining in the bag, so they can handle a little bit of moisture, but if they get too wet, then it just it turns into a solid block, kind of like concrete does. And then I do add it to warm water, but I can't get we've had it so that when we've had damaged bags, we try to use as much of it as we can. And it gets to the point where it plugs up the chemical feed pumps. And then we end up having to disassemble everything but
How much of a difference in price between what you have to buy? and what you
I
bought by?
probably could save, it could save me maybe like $5,000 on a load. And you're talking, you know, each time I buy this, they're up to, is it? It's 12, almost $1,500 now per pallet. It's really expensive. But the alternative of not using it is not good, because it is my corrosion control and my pH adjustment. So
Didn't the town at one time look at some storage up there? Weren't you looking at some sort of storage? To be able to have up there to
We're
store
looking at some
something
kind of an
at one
expansion
time? Yeah,
to expand the building,
and it
which
wasn't just for that one, it was.
for
the-
that purpose as
the
well
purpose of
as,
storing chemicals.
yeah, as well as we're gonna have to look into this in the future, because if we do put a 4th filter in the
Right,
building,
that's,
I will lose all storage off.
Yeah.
It will take up the whole footprint of the inside of the building. That's where I'm putting my bicarbonate filter.
Tim,
Any idea when the fourth filter is gonna be needed? We
I
just put the
don't.
3rd one online, right?
We did, and even, you know, even with the amount of people we had here in town last year, we had very few days that we were over 1 million gallons a day. So we're still doing
Al?
well. So far.
Hey, I look at the overtime line, 8,300 for 2 guys. Seems like a lot of, when do they work the,
The overtime is right now it's every other weekend.
okay, oh, okay. So every other weekend, one of them's on, okay,
And I work
never knew that.
every other weekend and you're not paying me.
Yeah, we have no overtime. for the other calendar.
Yeah, okay, I never knew that.
Yeah, they rotate.
Paul,
can I suggest that you put that in, next year's CIP? For the water,
For an expansion
some
and
sort of storage thing,
or start a line.
you know, that way there, you
Chips away at it.
right, start chipping away at it,
good idea.
and maybe save the money annually.
Yeah.
If you- the more you can build it, the better off you'd be safe, you know, with paper, so.
Additional questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Under contracted services, Cleveland Pond Reservoir Dam, every 2 years, 2019. Is that that's not the upper dam, to be the lower
No,
one?
that's the impoundment
Mm-hmm,
at the water treatment plant.
yep,
I've been holding off on, because the whole process of cleaning that, and I've seen it, and, basically what it is putting an excavator down draining the whole thing,
mm-hmm,
putting an excavator down inside of it, and then scraping it's all ledge.
oh, gotcha. So
Scraping all the
scraping
mud
sludge.
off the ledge and then bailing it out.
And it
I'm
doesn't
putting
seem
off
to be
doing it. I'm gonna try, and what we've done in the past is drain it and then use a fire hose and just spray and get the leaves to wash out, and then it's worked okay.
Gotcha.
I've had a couple of very minute, hits on the pond water of, a substance that comes from, petroleum. And it hasn't triggered any extra testing or anything. I'm worried that it's possible coming from grease off an excavator and sitting in that mud,
Gotcha.
and then it's testing for it. So I'd like to keep the excavator out of that water source. If I
Makes sense.
possibly could.
Paul?
How about a basin?
It can't reach that far.
How far they have to reach?
It's gonna have to be at least 50 to 100 feet.
Oh, it's a little long, but they can.
We can look into trying to maybe get David up there, see if what we could do. At least we could maybe get around it and get the most of the mud out.
I know there's other companies that do, longer runs, like down in the city where they do, catch basins for long
Yep.
runs in between,
I can look into that.
but they might be something to do about fear and getting oil from an
I
excavator.
think a lot of it too was concerned with the capacity of water that can be in that impoundment. Because of the mud taking up the
Mhm.
space within it. Because it is like, it's kind of concave, like conical
Right.
shape. So, the more the mud fills up in there, and then in the past, we've had problems. There's a screen in the old pump house. And we've had problems with that screen plugging up with that sediment, and we haven't had any issue like that. We don't use the pond a lot, but we do use it when we've had bad rain events. And I can't make water out of the river.
Okay,
You must have used it a lot this summer.
I did,
Oh,
and the wells.
Oh, yeah, the wells, yeah. Now, is that due to be done? Do you need something in this budget to get it sprayed out, to get it pumped?
I don't
to get
think
it-
I need this in the budget, and even when I do that.
Yeah.
It ends up costing me, in the past, it's $2,000.
Okay,
So I mean, even if I have to do it without a line item, I can sort that.
gotcha.
further questions?
No, I would just like to point out before we move on, something that we talked about on Tuesday was identifying where we spent monies out of the 2023 budget. The water department is one of them right now. If you're looking at the spreadsheet, the budget spreadsheet that you see that as of the 12/22 date, we spent 450,000 out of the 478. This was one of the invoices or one of the requests that we brought to the selectmen because we had a relatively decent surplus in the water line. We had two bills from Weston and Sampson in regards to the South Peak Water Tank project that we thought we could absorb in the 2023 water budget. So we took out 26,897.75 out of the 2023 water budget towards the South Peak Water Tank project.
Good, you mentioned that the other night, this is a good example. Paul.
So
Thank you.
that's why if you look at your expenditure
Right.
detail that I gave you on Tuesday night, you'll see that the water budget is actually 472 versus the 450 that you have on your checklist.
Thank you, Fern.
Yep.
Paul?
Just a question on the electricity.
Okay.
One, 150, when we spent 120 this year.
Yep.
Expect it to go up that much, or is it just?
It's the unknown, so I decided to just leave it as is.
And also it's the increase in the kilowatt hour. It's that 7 cents increase in the kilowatt hour that we discussed on Tuesday. So we're going from 11 cents per kilowatt hour to 18. So it's a pretty significant jump.
Some of this savings too, Paul, is when I can't make water out of the river. My most expensive equipment that's using electricity are the 2 river intake pumps. So if I'm just using the 2 smaller pumps at the water treatment plant, that don't have to work very hard, I'm saving a lot of money. When I'm just running those 2.
So if we were taking from the pond, we save money by not pumping. It does make sense to take more out of the pond when you can and save on pumping costs, or is that just not Just asking a question.
I mean, it's logical what you're saying, but the quality of the water I'm making out of the river when the river's good is way better.
Really? I thought the fall was Class A water.
They consider it that, but I don't believe it's as good.
The state, that's what they said was Class A water.
It's a wide range.
I actually end up having. When I go.
Standing.
All those people swimming in that water, you think coming out of that river wouldn't be that good.
Believe it or
I'm
not,
a little close about that.
when the river is good and it's crystal clear, I've had a lot of visitors, engineers and whatnot come into the water treatment plant, and my turbidity coming into that plant is lower than what's going out of, like, say, the city of Concord or any of these water treatment.
But with the rain like that this year, you haven't had many good days to do that.
Yeah,
Further questions before we move on to sewer?
thank you, Nate.
If not, okay, we move, 16.
So the only, increase is due to our contract with H2O Innovations. Everything else I've kept the same. We actually spent a lot of time working in the sewer treatment plant this summer. Not really out of this budget, but we had to do some upgrades, out of CIP. We had lost our influence screen and had to replace it. And that was quite a struggle to, get that out, a new one in, installed. The fire's been working well. And through our grant, we've got, 4 new aerators in there that seem to be working well. Hoping that future with those running this summer, we just put those online in the fall, so I'm hoping this summer. We might not see it, but utility partners will see a reduction in the electrical bill beginning. And if it all works the way it's designed to.
Just so everyone's aware, for the electricity at the sewer treatment plant, the H2O Innovations, the company we contract with, they reimburse us for the electricity. So the $10,000 that we have budgeted is actually paid by and through H2O Innovations.
Questions? Board,
So should that be a revenue line?
I was just,
It's we have to budget for it because it's a
Right.
town of Lincoln account.
But should there be a revenue line on?
Okay, yeah, you're right. We could add a revenue line to it.
right?
Nate, do you have any concern about the capacity issue as more single family project?
Getting close. So yes. Not at capacity yet, but we're teetering on the edge.
Thanks for
Okay,
So with that, there's been discussion about what the next step would be.
It's been ongoing, and we are still waiting for our EPA permit to operate from the federal government. And when we do get that permit, that will be the precursor to designing a new treatment plant.
Al, then Paul.
any update on the water line up Route 3? That was,
That-
was it budgeted last year?
For the bond?
Yeah.
Yes. We are, we're almost to the final stage of design. We're waiting for comments from NHDOT. And, I'm guessing the holdup is, because we have to cross the off ramp,
34A.
correct? Where that, I believe that information from DOT is gonna have to come out of Concord and not District 1. Because it'll come from turnpikes. But that's what the engineer's waiting on, and then it'll be out to bid, hopefully in the next month.
And no breaks this year?
What's that?
No breaks in the water line up there this year?
Yeah, thanks, Al.
Paul?
yeah, so just add on to what Nate said, as far as the sewer goes, and the capacity of the engineering. The town has put money in the CIP for some of the engineering for upgraded sewer at the plant there and to design a new plant or whatever as well. So the town continues to put money into CIP for that.
That, Paul is accurate, and just for reference, the town of Waterville Valley is redoing their sewer plan, and it's coming in at $50 million or something radical. So most likely, it would be a bonded project. We kind of, the red flag goes up with DEF or the EPA when we hit the 75% capacity mark, which we are under at the moment. Greg Forward, the town engineer, feels that we will be hitting that 75% mark probably in the next few years, and then that's when we'll have to start actually truly spending significant money, start planning.
Okay,
But the money
Cindy?
from CIP
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
But the money from CIP is not to fund the project, but to fund design and engineering.
To get us
stuff, so we can get started, so that it's not like it hasn't been being looked at for. It's,
Cindy?
So I will bring this up again, and I know it's not a very happy subject. But as we're looking at having to rebuild the sewer plant and design it, again, are we considering metering water? Because that has a tremendous impact on our ability to get funds from the federal government and other sources. So that full bond for rebuild does not come from this, from the town of Lincoln. Is there any thought, because, I mean, that's really important. Particularly if it's like $50 million.
anyway, but that's,
Yeah, very good.
Because obviously has been ongoing since well before my time.
Yeah.
here, And it continues to be brought up periodically, I would say, at the selectmen level.
Lately, it may be time, it may be time.
I don't disagree, but you may find that some of the selectmen may disagree on that topic.
Not this one.
Tammy and then Brent.
Brent was first, sorry.
Okay, Brent, okay.
That's okay.
If we upgrade this, I know I and several other members of the community have to use it. We pay for the operation of a pump house. When this gets upgraded, can we get rid of all those?
I think gravity's your problem with that.
Is there any way to pay the town to take those over and manage it?
Trying to get that one past town meeting.
All right, Tammy,
Be willing to pay more.
Tammy and then Brian.
I thought that Ray had figured that with the approved projects, including South Mountain and the hotels and the other hotel, whatnot, we were at 68%. And then the trigger was at 72, I thought.
I thought
So
it-
we are close.
Yeah, we're not far away.
Right, we're not far
definitely
away.
not far away.
And as far as, meters go, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
That we're not gonna be able to build a new or design or whatever and do sewer treatment facility without some funding. Federal funding or whatever. And without meters, we're not gonna get it. So,
Yeah, you go to the bottom of the pile.
Is that a,
yeah, meters.
Okay,
is that a vote from
Brian,
like?
Brian, you're next. Sorry.
Just going back to a year ago, and actually, I think it was Paul that brought up the point. Knowing that there's a new treatment plant on the horizon, knowing that the cost could be rather significant. Is it the planning board or is it the board of selectmen that gets involved in re-examining the question of impact fees as we start taking in more, say, residential or commercial development? I'm not sure which group, but would that possibly be an opportunity to create a new revenue source for this large project that inevitably is gonna come?
Impact fees are governed by the planning board. So if the planning board, we do have a bedroom impact fee permit.
But we also have, yeah, we have water tap fees, we have sewer tap fees, we already currently have somewhat of a impact fee system. You know, and when you take a look at what the town currently charges someone who builds a new house there, they pay water tap, sewer tap, they
Yeah,
pay
bedroom impact.
bedroom impact. So they, you know, the people are, that are building I didn't read.
Yeah, no, will you finish and then we'll let Al's name.
Yeah.
No,
No, Paul is correct, but that is through the building
Through the
permit
building.
process. It's not through a site plan process in which an impact fee would be imposed. But the thing with impact fees are, the state of New Hampshire has them defined as to which they have to be proportionate proportionate to the additional stress or the additional usage
Right.
coming on. So it's not like we can say to,
Dennis.
yeah, right, now we can say, Dennis, no, just kidding.
Can't get your permission.
So they could be looked at, but it would have to be proportionate to what is being proposed. So if a new developer comes in and they're proposing a 30-lot subdivision, whatever the impact fee would have to be proportionate to the additional usage of that 30-lot subdivision. It couldn't be a kind of arbitrary number that's placed on it.
Al, your next, you got your hand up?
Yeah, is the meters coming up again?
They came, oh, sorry,
Oh,
they were defeated at town meeting
Right,
Yeah.
years ago.
is that something
I try almost every week at the selectman level to get them back on town meeting as a warrant, and the two that sit beside me are dead set against it, so.
against the meters?
Yes.
Would it help
So-
to have more public input to the meters? I mean, because,
Absolutely.
I mean, you have to, because we've gotta go there.
And I take not full responsibility, but that was the year my dad had his accident and I wasn't at town meeting to argue it. I was unfortunately zooming in from my dad, so it didn't, there wasn't a good explanation at town meeting
was.
for the need of water meters, and that's on me, because I wasn't there.
Just two quick. One is that.
Voters and I, you're right.
And then the second is, does this have anything to do with this budget?
Well, it does when you talk about what could be used, but.
None of this is gonna be in this year's budget.
No, also, Brian, one of the things is, the selectmen have authorized some of the developments and some of the developments have come into the planning board and gotten approvals. So those people might not have to pay any impact fees. You'd be looking at impact fees on probably future development, not what's already been committed and approved. So things like Dennis's Hotel, that's already been approved, up in Forest Ridge, other places that have been approved. You know, the impact fees would not affect that, it would be new.
Right.
And all of South Peak,
That's
same thing,
Oh,
so.
wow.
You know, you really kind of, it's tough.
So,
Okay,
no,
Brian?
I understand that, Paul. I mean, just an example, we just got a notice today, I guess it was posted to our door, there's a potential 28 units proposal to go up on
Mansion Hill.
Hill. Now, 28 units is not a lot, but when you look at the bigger picture in the land in Lincoln, you know, 1,000 is sort of like a significant, development. Those kinds of projects have not been approved, or future projects like that come out, and knowing that Cambridge is on top of this, then it just seems like maybe there's an opportunity that town doesn't want to miss.
I definitely agree, Brian, and it would be, the planning board would have to enact a impact fee ordinance. And so it would have to be built into our land use ordinance, and that would have to go before town meeting. So unfortunately, for 2024, we're not gonna see it, but I do think that, I don't disagree, I think in the future, I mean, it would behoove the town to look at these larger developments and potentially assess the impact fee.
I think can't you do one time? Assessments, to new developments for towns?
I don't know. I know that in order for us to charge an impact fee at the site plan level or subdivision level, we have to have an impact fee ordinance, which we currently do not.
We've talked about it.
We have, right.
Any more questions for Nate on sewer?
Nate, thank you.
Nate, you did a fantastic,
Thank you.
fantastic job. Keep up the great work. I appreciate your
I don't think, yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how many hours they puts in and does not get paid.
Yeah,
We did mention that, Paul.
There's a lot. He worked, I mean, we had a water main break up fire where Ray was. And, Nate was there on Sunday.
Yep. That's the kind of guy he is.
Well,
We know
not
that.
only does he put in a lot of hours, he
Yep.
also manages 4 or 5 of the largest budgets that we have. And he does it with
Yes.
fiscal responsibility, so.
They raised for me.
Good night. Very good. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Have a good night.
It's relatively early. Are we gonna call it quits, or do you wanna do any of the smaller budgets that we can knock out?
Well, we advertised the ones that we did and.
Yeah.
Yeah, you-
That's right.
You don't, that's not true, because you don't have to post the agenda.
Well, I know that, but I mean, just if we give somebody,
Yeah, we don't wanna, Paul,
I would think that we stick with what we had and then.
Chair.
I mean, if
agrees
you
with
want to change the agenda every time, and just say,
Yeah.
if we finish these, we can do these and these, then some of these.
And then somebody could say, I was gonna go to the meeting
Right.
for this. Yeah, you
Right.
have a good point, Paul. I don't think you had any
Well, that's
good
what the
idea.
Public hearing is.
Paul, right on the ball, that was. Tuesday, we will be doing the minutes, the last minutes, last 2 meetings.
Yep.
Reviewing the-
Does anybody have any questions for the board or for Corinne? Anybody?
Karina,
Rita? Yes, Paul.
her name is Karina. I'm not trying to be quiet, as I'm trying to say. I'm not with Corinne, but it's Karina.
All right.
I just
She
trying.
answers the hey you though.
I get a lot of pain.
No, I would never say, hey, you.
I do.
Is
Yeah.
there anything else we could do? If we have so much time, or no?
Well, I mean, Paul brought up a good point. If we advertise these budgets to be discussed, and if we add on a budget, somebody could say, well, I was gonna come when you did such and such, and you did it without any announcements.
But that's why we have a public hearing, so that
Exactly.
we can go through like legal or
Like, I was thinking
Legal
legal and
and
insurance.
purpose.
Legal and
Legal and
insurance, kind of.
little ones. And then if somebody, because they weren't here, if somebody wanted to say something, we have public hearings for them to say something.
Let's open it up.
The
What
benign
does the
ones
committee
are-
think? Do you wanna do a couple of quick ones?
I would like to do legal and.
Legal and insurance?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Covered? Everybody? All right? Sign it.
Hold on, we didn't vote.
Right.
Yes, thank you. I'm just gonna suggest that we put something in our vote that indicates that it can be brought up on those that we're taking off schedule. Anybody that comes in later, we'll reopen.
Right, just gonna be so with the public.
Yeah, that's why. the
That's,
public hearing.
I mean, these are not big ones. Paul, are you comfortable with this, okay? Should we take, I think we should take a vote,
Just legal and insurance, so those are the other two.
just legal and it should. All right, I need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion that we look at legal and insurance tonight.
Need a second? Yep, from Al. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adding legal and insurance to be discussed tonight, please raise your hands by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passed. All right, Corinne, you're on. Right,
Karina,
Sorry.
Their name, like-
Just say the town manager, maybe quick.
There we go.
Yeah, might be easier. All right, all right.
All right, let's start with legal number.
Legal
four.
number 4, legal score. Thank you, Corinne.
He did that on purpose.
No, I'm not. No, I'm locked in. Sorry.
It'll be easier. Karen.
Thank you, town manager.
There you go. So legal expenses, so, if you remember, in 2022, our legal budget was $250,000. In 2023, we dropped it to 111. In 2024, I am proposing to bring it down to 95. The reason why we are keeping it so high, in comparison to the expenditures is we have 2 outstanding court cases that we have yet to either win or
Yeah.
settle at the moment. They are both, one is slated to be on the court's docket in February, the other one is in April. So we don't really know what those cost expenditures are going to be associated with those two remaining court cases.
We had expected them to be last year.
We were hoping that they were scheduled to be, held this fall, but they're, due to the
Didn't happen.
courts, due to the court scheduling, it got pushed back to, as I said, one will be in February and one will be in April, so we kept a little bit of a buffer just with that unknown. But once these two court cases are, completed, we will have no remaining active lawsuits, in the town of Lincoln, which will be the first time in a long time, so.
So I know you can't discuss them, but what are they?
The first one is, one of them is the Janine Wood trial, and one of them is the Nelson trial, the Nelson West Street, West Street. So, like I said, we kept a little bit of a buffer with the unknowns still coming.
Right? No, it's not, wait, not.
How many different law firms does the town have?
Just one currently,
This one.
just one. We, at one point, we had a different lot for the two cases that we settled in 23, late 22, 23. Not settled, we either prevailed or we
Right,
settled in
right.
23. We had an additional law firm that we were working with, but it was because we had a different insurance provider at the time the lawsuits were settled, so it was the law firm that the insurance company used.
Also, we use another one for negotiation.
Oh, that's true, we
Yeah.
used to, so we used one for our union CBA,
Personnel
negotiation,
type,
which we completed in 23, and then another one for general.
Right,
I would just add to that, that cannot expect a firm to cover everything.
Right.
No.
And so they might lead on a case, but they'll have to bring in support. That happens all the time.
Mhm.
At the right time, that happens. And, it just depends on the technical issues.
Mhm.
The fact that I'm an engineer and a lawyer helps. Still, it's really specific technical things.
We also use the New Hampshire Municipal Association, their legal aid as much as possible. That's a free service that we get out of our dues that we pay for that with them annually. So we started a policy in-house last year that no one's allowed to contact the attorney unless I've given them approval. So all attorney legal inquiries go through me, and I make the decision whether we can get a free legal advice from NHMA or whether it has to actually go through general counsel.
That's good, man.
further questions?
The only additional thing I do want to add is this was brought up at the select board level. Sometimes the planning board has legal questions that that maybe they are hesitant or resistant to spend town funds out of the general legal line for everyone else. So it was suggested at the select board level, OJ had suggested that maybe we add $2,000 into the legal line for the planning board. So at any time the planning board needs legal advice, they don't feel like they have to go through me for that legal advice. They can reach out to, they know that they have a budgeted amount for that.
Right, I mean, it could be a conflict.
Could be a conflict between the select board and the planning board. So we felt it would just be cleaner if they had their own kind of legal line budget.
Further questions?
Thank you for that.
Okay, insurance number 9.
So unfortunately, our insurance did go up the 9%. We use Primex, which is pretty much has a monopoly over municipal and school districts, SAUs, insurance in the state of New Hampshire. We did sign into a CAP program with them this past year, which guarantees them, they cannot go over the 9%. The 9% is their guaranteed maximum. I know, their guaranteed maximum increase year over year. We weren't eligible to sign into this program prior to, because you have to be a member with them for, I believe it's 5 years. And the town of Lincoln did a small stint for a small period of time where they strayed away from Primex and they went to a private insurance carrier, which did not work in the town's favor. And so we're now back at Primex, but we are in their cap program, so we at least know now, for the remaining 2 years, I think it's a 3-year program, this is year 1, that we won't get more than a 9% increase. We're hoping to not get a 9% increase, but at least we know that that is the guaranteed maximum increase with this.
Questions?
I was reading somewhere that there was a municipality south that got an 18% increase on their property liability, so that's half. We got half.
Right?
Karina, this 9% increase, how does that compare with past?
It's definitely higher. I don't, to be honest, I don't remember what the increase was last year. It actually might have been more. I actually think last year was 12%.
It was 12.
I think it was 12% last year, and I think it's at the 9 this year because we signed into that cap program.
Dennis?
I've been, hit with increases like crazy as well, all properties and all types of insurance. But I've been opting for higher deductibles that can get, some people go into danger zone about that, but if I'm gonna save 9%, I go for higher deductibles and take my risks. So how do we do that? I don't know what the deductibles are.
Yeah, our deductible is $1,000. I don't know if Primex offers a program like that. Primex has a pretty cookie cutter, everyone gets a very, I would say, comparable insurance from municipality to municipality. I could look into that. I don't know for certain that they offer something with a higher deductible.
One more. I don't know what I don't know what the appetite is with Board of Selectmen. My appetite at $10,000 deductible, it was not. And my insurance, one of my insurance companies wouldn't do it, but I said, look, I'm not paying you these premiums. It's just getting out of hand. It's really out of hand.
Sure.
And they looked into it. They did grant me $1,000. So I don't know what the appetite is.
I think with the.
Paul?
Are there any other, can you part piecemeal? In other words, can you take certain sections and go to an insurance company that's all they do?
You mean like carve out like our automobile liability or
Yeah, something like that might make it, you know,
slightly less?
yeah.
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I mean, maybe it's something we can look into. I think if we see increases like that year over year, then maybe that is something we want to look into. But like I said, I know that the town has
That's,
gone with a private insurance
and
carrier.
that's why, to piecemeal it, and it bit us in the butt, big time.
I said, Brent?
And we've explored that,
Yeah.
blended market, and it usually has been
No.
a year advantage.
I will say that Primex does offer not just our property and liability and our insurance, they offer a multitude of trainings. They come in-house, they do liability and risk training, they come in-house, they do like OSHA compliance stuff. It's not just here's your insurance company, you pay them your annual premium. They do other things for us. They do bring in an additional service other than just insurance.
Follow up, yeah. But that adds to their cost.
It sure
And
does.
that is one of the problems with that, but, yeah, exactly, you're paying for it, but even if you're not using it. But it's been a tough 2 years for the insurance market, I think.
Dennis?
It's not discretionary.
I'm not the expert there by any means. I listen to my insurance people a lot. And they've done well with me over the past 20 years. Same insurance companies. And because of the size of Riverwalk, I'm with a private insurance carrier group like that in the resort industry. And they have piecemeal certain sections on, because I just kind of, I didn't say I'm changing, but I almost said I'm changing. And they, you know, again, you gotta have the appetite for it. There's organizations out there, businesses out there, private or not private, that have to be able to say, I mean, I've been caught in a fire on Cape Cod and I had a $20,000 deductible on a $230,000 tab, and I'm saying, oh, boy. here we go.
Well, I mean, the town's in a pretty unique position to be able to do what Dennis is saying about raising the deductibles, because we have an unexpended fund surplus, and we have, you know, should there be a big deposit necessary, you know, you can pull it out of there and then put it back in next year, so, I mean, it might be something to think about, taking out of that surplus, increasing your deductible surplus coverage should you need, and then following year, you put it back in surplus, so. I mean,
Yeah,
there is something, the town's pretty unique in that ability to have that, where someone like that can't throw, doesn't have that surplus available, as far as I know.
I did,
Brett?
I did.
Yeah, absolutely, you should, I mean, high deduct, insurance companies are gonna like high deduct, well, they don't like the fact that they don't get paid as much for it. But they eliminate small claims entirely, and it's a whole different ballgame, so. If you can self-insure, I think 10 is too low, 25, 5.
Even if we did that, though, gross budgeting, we still have to budget that deductible. Right now, we have $1,000 deductible, so we have $2,000 in there. We can overspend it. But overspending, if we wreck 6 vehicles and have to come up with another $4,000 in deductibles, we can do that. If we have a $10,000 or $25,000 deductible, we're gonna have to budget for roughly 2, to be on the safe side, so that's 20,000 or 50,000. We have to put in the budget, because we have to budget the deductible, period, have to, gross budgeting. And then if we wreck 6 cruisers,
Okay,
we're gonna, I mean, it's.
How
But
much?
Dennis
say-
can do it
like
on
that?
his hotel, because it's his hotel. He's the one that's screwing himself. If we do it in town, we are the ones that are screwing all of our taxpayers. That's. I'm not
If you take a
comfortable.
look at the unexpended budget,
The math doesn't work.
the unexpended operational budget money from this year, I mean, still, if you had one. If you had to increase it, you could do it out of that, so I mean, there's plenty of ability to be able to increase that. I would think that deductible.
Okay,
And-
Brett?
So the math doesn't work out the way you just said. It works out in your favor usually, because you don't usually have 6 accidents or 4 or 2. You may have a certain number, but generally, and this is, the whole industry is built on it. That's why you pay less for high deductibles. You will not spend that money. You can budget it. Say you budget for 6 accidents and you have 1. You've over budgeted by 50, but how much have you saved on the insurance? Did you save more than what you spent
This year,
on the deductible?
this year we say.
No, it doesn't, it's
It's-
not year to
it's-
year. It's over.
Yeah, but that's what I'm not understanding, is because I can do that with my house. I have a $10,000 deductible on every
So-
property I own, but I'm the one screwing myself. This is the town, this is the
Nobody's getting
taxpayers,
screwed.
this is your municipality. We have to gross budget it. If I don't have 10,000 in the bank to cover my deductible, that's up to me. But we, as a municipality, have to have that in the bank. We have to budget a deductible, whether it's 1 or 12, whatever we decide. So we have to have it. If we overspend it, we overspend it. If for some, Hurricane Katrina comes through, or Irene, sorry. Hurricane Katrina comes in, takes out Loon Mountain Bridge, and we have to spend 325,000 under our expended fund balance right then and there. We have no other deductibles.
But you have the ability to have a special town meet, hold a special town meeting and raise and appropriate that money, because it's an emergency, so there are different ways you can.
Because we made the decision.
Correct, I mean, it's, you know, you can overspend,
I don't know how to tell this.
I mean, the town has unique abilities in a lot of different ways to raise money. You know, for emergencies, so I don't know, I think that makes a good point, maybe, I mean.
I don't understand.
Brett?
If Primex offers
Okay, people,
to your program, I don't think they do.
Brett?
I don't understand the terminology split the time. You're trying to save money overall, over time. So if there's a way to do it, it is always, if you have the capital and you can cover the loss, you're always better off having a high deductible. If you do not have the capital that you can cover the loss, is the only reason that you would have a low deductible. That's the only reason.
Al, you got a question?
Yeah.
Good.
I just have one more comment. From Mrs. Pop.
Oh.
I'll manage, sounds better, I'll manage.
King.
Butter, you know, if I can tell you.
I would listen, just talk to the insurance company.
Yeah.
Probably, town council, just throw a question at it. Just listen to your advisors, that's what I do, try to do. Thus far, it's worked out, but, like Tammy says, I'm a private company and it's my money at the end of the year. I sort of, it's, yeah.
I will say there's a reason why Primex is the insurance carrier for 100+ towns and cities in the state of New Hampshire. But I will look into it. I will do my due diligence.
I can afford it.
Right,
You know, while you're looking into it, with a discussion with the municipal association. To get their broader experience with that.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think they kind of work in tandem a lot. NHMA and Primex. They're kind of in cahoots with each other.
Yes.
So,
We won't even strike that word.
no.
You're right.
But like I said, I will do my due diligence and ask if there's different tier programs that they offer. So at least we can know our options.
Paul.
Most to adjourn.
No, I was gonna ask how many more questions for insurance.
Yeah.
Insurance question?
And I had a question before we adjourn.
Oh, sure.
So, but ask the first question first. Any more questions on insurance?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Okay.
Are there any more questions on the insurance budget? Many, okay. Now you have something to say?
Before we adjourn, because we've taken legal and insurance off of January 9th. And because of the change with January 23rd to 25th, we kind of super loaded again January 11th. We have police, patriotic purposes, cemetery, special warrants, and capital reserve. Yeah, and we move anything from that meeting up to January 9th. So we get a more even distribution.
Yeah, because cemetery and patriotic purposes are nothing.
Yeah, so if we can pull, and then we're just focusing on police and special warrants and capital
Sure.
reserve on the.
Cemetery and what's the other one? Patriotic purposes?
Yeah, move those to the 9th. Does that
9th.
make sense?
I think that's makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Just trying to smooth it out.
Okay.
No,
Sounds
it's-
good.
it's
See
good.
what
We
we
have to
can
make
do.
the best use of our time.
Yeah.
Right, right,
Okay.
right.
Anything, right?
Now, can
Cemetery and what was the other one?
Patriotic.
Patriotic
purposes.
purposes.
move to the.
Okay, ready? Motion to adjourn.
Paul beat you to it.
All these to it.
Paul beat you
You
to
go
that one.
second though, I
Okay, I'll
guess.
second.
You can second it.
There we go.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, pass, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Or it's not
Jamie,
me for future stuff.
Jamie,
Wow, sorry. Sorry, Al.
We're gonna get in touch with Jay and Jeff. Can you turn off your computer?
I'm doing it wrong.
No, Jay?
Well, Larry.
My work
Yeah.
husband.
That guy is.